Welcome, everyone, to the Planet MicroCap Showcase Vancouver 2024 in association with Small Cap Discoveries. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and joining us right now for this next keynote here at the Planet MicroCap Showcase is the team from the TSX. We have Tim Babcock as well as Dani Lipkin. And gentlemen, take it away.
Thanks, Robert, and really great to be here. And hi from Toronto, Vancouver here today. Maybe before we get started, we're going to do a couple of introductions just so you're aware of who we are at the exchange. So, Tim, I'll let you do a quick little biography about yourself so the audience knows who you are.
Certainly. Thanks, Dani. I am Tim Babcock, president of TSX Venture Exchange. In that role, essentially, I'm responsible for the operations of the venture exchange and specifically as it relates to our listed issuers, so listing companies and helping them along their journey as public companies. I've been with the exchange for 25 years or so, so have seen a little bit here and there, and it's really my great pleasure to be here joining you today.
Great, thanks, Tim. And for the viewing audience, I'll just give a quick background on myself. So I'm the junior member of the team, only having been at the exchange for the last 14 years here. So my role is globally leading our innovation sector. So what does innovation sector mean to us? Well, that's working with companies in the technology, clean tech, life sciences space. So a lot of the companies that are out there in Vancouver over these 2 days are ones that we're really focused on helping. And so what do we do for these companies? It's really helping them get public and then advocating on behalf of the entire innovation ecosystem in Canada. What we want to have ultimately is more capital flowing into the systems, more investors realizing the great potential of both Canadian and globally listed companies that list on our exchange, and really profiling them to the world. And so what Tim and I are going to do today is kind of hit up on two different topics. So first, before we'll get back to Tim, I'm going to give a little bit of a market update on what we're seeing on both the TSX Venture and TSX, so people get a bit of a context, a flavor of, what our markets are very good at doing. And then once concluding with that, I'm going to bring in Tim, and we're going to discuss TSX Venture Forward. This is a very important initiative to us here at TSX and TSX Venture because we run such a unique ecosystem with TSX Venture, and we're always looking for ways to improve the experience for everybody involved. And Tim's going to talk to you a little bit about our journey over the last few years and how we've improved that experience overall and how we continue going forward to look to improve that experience for everybody involved. So to get things started, I'm going to just give, as I mentioned, quick little background and update on the markets overall. Really want to set the stage for TSX Venture Exchange. I'm going to throw out a couple of stats just so people are aware. What people might not realize is Canada really has one of the strongest capital markets in the world. If you look over the last 5 years, we have raised close to $200 billion on our two marketplaces. This ranks in the top 5 globally for countries raising equity capital. US and China are generally 1 and 2 on the league tables. And then Canada kind of fights it out with the UK and Australia for 3, 4, 5. What you don't notice on the screen today is you don't see Japan or Germany up there. Some of the largest economic powerhouses in the world. Canada, is only about 3% of global GDP. Yet we rank at the top of the tables in terms of being able to help companies raise equity capital. And the reason that we kind of do this so well is because we attract global capital coming to Canada. If you look at our daily traded volume, about 40% of it actually originates outside of Canada. The reason for this is that we have a lot of membered firms who are global players. So you'll see a lot of logos up there, some of the biggest global bulge bracket banks and a lot of trading firms. On a daily basis, they are coming and trading TSX and TSX Venture listed securities because there's great opportunities overall in these names, and global investment managers have realized this. And so kind of want to give you a bit of an overview of what our marketplace looks like overall. Now, mining is a very important franchise for the Canadian economy and for TSX and TSX Venture Exchange overall. But what this slide really shows everybody is that we're actually a very diverse market now. despite mining being such an important franchise, it's 13% of our overall market cap. Innovation is actually about 10% overall. At one point, going back a few years, our innovation franchise was actually larger than our mining franchise. And more importantly, we've actually seen our market cap, the total aggregate market cap of all the companies listed on TSX and TSX Venture Exchange, grow significantly over the last number of years. And now we have a $4.5 trillion total market capitalization of all the companies listed on those two exchanges. And I mentioned before, kind of recognizing the world coming to Canada. One thing people also don't realize is that we have a lot of international companies starting their journey in Canada. And really where most of them actually start their journey is on TSX Venture because of its uniqueness that we'll get into over the course of the next 20 or so minutes. A lot of these companies internationally are US-based companies because they like to come here first, raise capital, and maybe when they're ready for the American markets, we'll go back and dual list on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. And these companies have been able to raise quite a bit of money over the last 5 years, being close to $23 billion in equity capital amongst these 230 so international companies. Now, a brief little bit about the context of TSX versus TSXV. I've just thrown up some stats here that reflect the technology sector for us overall, and kind of shows the strength that we've seen in this market over the last number of years and how much it's grown. If you look at the average market cap for TSX tech company, it's about $5 billion versus about $145 million on the TSX Venture Exchange. And if you look at financing sizes for the two markets, on average over the last 5 years, it's about 167 million for a TSX listed tech company and about 6 million for a TSX venture company. So you see that, there is quite a difference in the two markets and the kind of average financing size. But what the goal is with all these TSX venture companies is to get them up to TSX. And you'll see here that over the last, 2 decades or so, we've had over 750 companies start life on TSX Venture and graduate up to TSX. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a couple of the technology companies that we're highlighting that have done this graduation. Starting off life maybe as a $10 to $40 million market cap company and growing to become some of the largest companies in Canada. And, that's why we love what Robert and Planet MicroCap do so well, is because they're featuring those earlier stage companies that hopefully one day become, the vital hubs, the converged technology solutions of the world, and really some of the leading technology players in Canada. The stat that's not on here that I always like to throw out is when you actually look at our S&P TSX Composite Index, and that'd be approximately the largest 230 or so biggest companies in Canada, about 20% of those companies actually started life on TSX Venture. So we're really proud of helping those earlier stage companies grow to becoming some of the largest companies in Canada. And I mentioned before, innovation has been an area where we truly are putting, a lot of our efforts behind. And now over the last number of years, it's been the number 2 sector for new companies listing on our markets. We've also seen $50 billion of equity capital raised in the innovation sector. So, 10 years ago, there wasn't, as much enthusiasm around innovation. I think, there was a little bit of, questions around, was there an investor base that could help support these companies? And now I think about a decade later, we've really proven out that thesis that there are investors who want to invest in some of the highest emerging growth type companies on our public markets. Now, I've going into the weeds a little bit here because I want people to understand the context of how these companies are going public. Obviously, IPOs over the last number of years, have been down a little bit since the boom of 2020 to 2022. But we want to remind people that IPOs aren't exactly the way that most companies actually go public in Canada. The most sought after journey for a company going public in the innovation space in Canada is through a qualifying transaction with a capital pool company. And this capital pool company program is proprietary to TSXV and is a great way of supporting these earlier stage companies and making it a little bit more flexible for them to go public and raise the capital that they need for their next journey. And so, yes, you might not see the headlines of IPOs these days, but we're still seeing lots of companies going public on our markets every week. And the majority of the way that they go public is through a qualifying transaction. So sometimes don't always look at the headlines and think that there's still not great companies and new ideas going public. There are tons of fresh ideas. So look through our CDR filings and look through our tsx.com/MIG list, which is our market intelligence group, to find out about the new companies that are going public every week. And the last update I'll share to you, and this is the stat that impresses me always the most, is we always look to the US and people always talk about, what's going on with, the Magnificent Seven over the past number of years. But we actually have a phenomenal tech sector in Canada overall. And if you actually look at the total returns of our TSX Tech Index over the last 10 years, on an annualized basis, it's actually outperformed the NASDAQ 100. Truly remarkable performances, and shows that there are great companies in Canada that you got to pay more attention to overall. So on that point, I'm actually going to bring in Tim to the fold and really talk about our Venture Forward program and kind of why Tim and his team set out to do it and how this is really going to continue to help our two-tiered ecosystem, help companies and help investors going forward for the next decade, and ensuring there's great opportunities for companies to raise capital on our market and investors to find those opportunities overall. So Tim, maybe I'll pass it to you. Just if you give us a little bit of a context and history of Venture Forward and where the genesis for this idea really started from.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Dani. As you said before, we're very proud of the platform we have provided for early stage companies to grow in Canada and to become highly successful public companies. But we know we can do better. And so Venture Forward, in a nutshell, is really an intense stakeholder engagement initiative, the intent of which is to identify challenges and opportunities in the market, the public venture market specifically, and ultimately uncover ways in which we can make this market better. And so we kicked this off in June of 2022 with the publication of a white paper. And that white paper set out some of our views on the state of the market and some of the challenges that we see. But really the intent of the white paper was to encourage stakeholders to connect with us, encourage stakeholders to engage and offer feedback. And that really started about a year-long in-depth consultation process with stakeholders and a variety of stakeholders across the entire venture community. So through surveys and one-on-one conversations and in-depth group chats, engaging with our advisory committees and so on, we gathered an extensive amount of feedback. And that feedback was certainly diverse in areas, but we were able to draw out some key themes. And as on the slide here, the themes were really around accelerating our processes, improving our review transparency, providing opportunities to showcase issuers. That was really important to issuers, and finding ways to open up our market to more companies and investors. So taking all that feedback, a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of internal debate on what to do about it. And ultimately in June of 2023, we published our report on our commitments to accelerate the evolution of the public venture market in Canada. That report had 10 commitments. There are really 4 kind of big key ones, and these were new ideas to grow and innovate our market and create a path for new companies and investors to access the ecosystem. And then 6 additional commitments that, similarly important, but a lot of them kind of drew on themes on things that we had been pursuing already, or already had kind of ideas around, and really help enhancing our position in the market, enhancing the services we provide, and really giving us a better ability to help support our issuers over time.
That's great. And so Tim, I think what we want to go through over the next couple of minutes is those 4 key commitments, because I think they're really instrumental in driving forward new companies that could potentially list on the exchange and kind of help them out more. For Robert, these will eventually be companies that will hopefully be presenting at future Planet MicroCaps as well. And so what we kind of want to discuss first is passport listings. This was kind of the first initiative that you launched out of this program. And can you kind of, Tim, maybe explain some of the rationale behind the passport listing program and how companies could look to utilize this program overall?
Yeah, certainly. It's not going to be a surprise to anybody that markets move fast. And over the last 5+ years, I think the pace of change in our markets has really accelerated. And I think in the venture market in particular, we see change practically every day. And so through all of our feedback, one key word kept coming up, and that was speed. So speed is very important. So speed to access the market, speed to get listed is very important to our community. And so one of the ways that we're looking to address that is this passport listing process. And what it is really an accelerated listing process for our most advanced and importantly, our most ready applicants. So what we've done is we've put together some eligibility criteria that would dictate what applicants might be eligible for this process. And we have committed to partnering with those applicants and their advisors on an accelerated review cadence and hopefully getting them to market in a much quicker fashion. So the process in which we do that is, as I say, we've set out these eligibility criteria. We first sit down with the applicant and go through in detail all of those criteria, really get a sense of what the company is and what it looks like, and ultimately, hopefully, identify that as an eligible applicant for this process. And then following the receipt of a full listing application that gives us a complete picture on everything we need to pursue that review, we set up regular checkpoints with the entire deal team, and we commit to an accelerated review cadence where we're providing comments and responses in an accelerated manner to get these companies through the process quicker. And the one last thing I will mention on this is this does not change our listing requirements. So all of these companies are still subject to the exact same listing requirements, but we're committing to do it in a faster manner.
And I guess, Tim, right, this is the idea that we want to make sure we can help issuers get to market, in a timely fashion when raising capital, right? And and I guess Tim too, maybe we'll talk about throughout it. It's just like TSX Venture has been great at supporting new emerging industries, right, over the past decade or so. So, you were looking at some of the earliest cannabis public market companies, some of the earliest blockchain, crypto companies, a lot of AI companies that have started to evolve over the last number of years. And I guess, not specifically for Passport, but I guess, one thing we didn't talk about at the outset was a lot of what you're looking at is how can we better help all of these emerging industries, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that we've long been, as you say, kind of at the forefront of new industries and new types of businesses coming our way. And so we're keen to continue that. And we're always looking at ways that we can, help understand the state of the market and help those issuers access the capital that they need and the speed that they need to do so.
Yeah. And as I always like to point out to people, we had the world's first Bitcoin ETF. So if you're watching this in the States, just always remember that. We had the world's first ETF. We also had the world's first Bitcoin ETF. So, this market is really very good at supporting those emerging items. And our marketplace supports it overall because we also then have that global pool of investors that come to it.
Yeah.
And so, Tim, maybe I'll go on to kind of maybe the next slide and the next item and initiative in terms of digital transformation. I'll take a step back for a second and recount my days 14 years ago. I actually was part of the TSX listing staff and thinking back to the days of fax machines. And I guess we've come a long way. Digital transformation has been a huge, important step for your team and your stakeholders. And maybe you want to just give a bit of an overview and sense of where we've come to date in terms of digital transformation for the listing experience overall, and kind of why this was so key.
Yeah, I think, to your point, Dani, you're absolutely right. I think when we look back even, a decade ago, it was ridiculously archaic in terms of some of our processes. But not to shed too much light on some of our dirty laundry, but we have made significant changes since then. And so with digital transformation and how it kind of came into Venture Forward, we have spent a lot of time, money, and energy on improving our processes and bringing technology to how we operate our business. But what we want to do here is bring that technology, bring that digital experience to our issuers to help improve their experience, to help improve how we interact with our issuers. And really at the forefront of that is this platform that we've dubbed TMX Links. And this is an online secure portal for all issuers. So all of TSX Venture issuers, all of TSX issuers, to engage with the exchange in the regular submissions that they may need to make and the filings that those issuers need to make with the exchange. And so what this does is first of all, provides ease of access. So ease of access for all of our issuers to engage with the exchange and to engage with the exchange in the timely manner that they need to do so. It also is incredible for transparency. So all of our issuers can see at a mouse click or two exactly where their submission is in terms of the review process, exactly who is reviewing that. Their advisors, to the extent that the issuer gives them access, can also get updates regularly. And this whole platform provides us with additional efficiency in how we do our work. And so that is not only good for us, but it's good for issuers, because again, going back to that speed issue, we can accelerate, we can automate some of the processes that we do. And so we're providing quicker, faster, better service to our issuers on all of their transactions. So this is something we've been continually augmenting over the last number of years. We're continuing to spend a lot of time and money in adding features, adding functionality, improving the service offerings through links, and we'll continue to do that for years to come.
No, it's great. And I think, to the first point and helping ease the access when raising capital, again, this is part of that, whole journey of making it more efficient in the capital markets, right?
Yeah.
Overall. And so, Tim, I'll move on again now to your third initiative that you've launched here. And it kind of touched upon it a few minutes ago about how, TSXV has really been at the forefront of emerging sectors like cannabis, blockchain, AI, crypto over the years, and really done a great job of supporting these companies. And, some of these earlier stage companies become some of the biggest companies in Canada, get into the TSX 60, get into the TSX Composite. I guess, as you surveyed stakeholders and ecosystem partners, what was the feedback that you received around our listing requirements and better ways kind of to support these types of businesses? And not necessarily say better ways, but like, how could we continue to improve to support these emerging industries, which, not to say it can be a challenge, but they're emerging. And, 10 years ago, I don't think we'd be lying if we said we didn't know a ton about the cannabis industry and licensed producers. And 8 years ago, we didn't know a ton about crypto, right? Like, they're evolving industries that, we're all trying to get up to speed in pretty quickly. And, how did, what you've learned over the past decade from emerging growth industry and stakeholder feedback fuel what you have now termed TSXV Sandbox overall?
Yeah, when we look back at how or why we've been able to support some of these emerging industries is really about our flexibility. So flexibility has always been a foundation in terms of how we operate, how we interact with our issuers. We use discretion often in terms of applying our listing requirements. where we can, of course, where there's solid rationale to do so. But that flexibility is certainly not universally known, and is not entirely transparent. And in fact, it's not really transparent at all. So what we're looking to do with the TSX Venture Sandbox is provide more of a formal and transparent forum for us to consider unique listing applicants, unique business structures, novel types of listings that we might not otherwise be able to list, but B, we might not otherwise be able to showcase to the market on how we're using flexibility to get these companies listed. So really, this is a lot about encouraging innovation. So we're reaching out to high quality companies that for one reason or another may not fit within the confines of our listing requirements, and we are encouraging them to dialogue with us. So come talk to us. Let's see if we can find a way to make this work in this more formal and transparent forum. And importantly, very successfully, we have just recently had our first TSX Venture Sandbox listing. Coolico Metals listed a few weeks ago. If you want to check out all the details, we have a dedicated page on our website that gives the discretion used, the conditions for listing, the conditions to exit the sandbox. So there's a lot of good information there on how we're applying this new structure.
No, it's great. And I think, what people appreciate is the transparency you actually have given with that listing and people being able to fully see. And this is similar to, I guess, TSX also created their own sandbox a few years ago. And again, transparency around it, I think, is always the key that we say to having everybody understand some of the decisions that are made at TSX and TSXV overall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the last item kind of want to touch upon today was, one other question, feedback, and deliberation I guess you guys had gone through with Venture Forward when you started this, 2 years ago was, do we need another exchange? And I think a lot of market participants had different viewpoints on this. And maybe just a quick, before we wrap up, a little bit about where you kind of landed with this overall in terms of should we have a new exchange?
Yeah, and this is a bit of a different commitment on our part, and the commitment was really to explore. Is such a different exchange necessary, needed, desired? And this really came from kind of the theme around providing new ways for new participants to enter our ecosystem. So we put together a cross-functional team across all of TMX, did a lot of internal dialogue, research, trying to understand where this might take us. And I guess really the conclusion, or at least the interim conclusion, is there was really no immediate complementary opportunity that we could put our finger on. So that analysis continues. It's still something we're always looking for new opportunities. But one thing that did come up is, again, a theme around how do we improve processes, existing processes for issuers. And in that light, we have partnered with Canaccord Genuity to create Marquette Ventures. And this is an end-to-end digital solution for the private placement subscription process. So our team and Canaccord's team around Marquette is out speaking with the community over the coming months. You can check out their website, Google it. That service will be online very shortly, and there's certainly more to come. And not only more to come on Marquette, but certainly more to come around Venture Forward.
That's great. So, Tim, I think this has been a great overview. I think for people who want to reach out, you're always available to discuss some of these initiatives going forward. And I think, what's most important for people to realize is that we want to be working with the community. We're here to help. We know that this is such a vital place and so unique in the world, the TSXV and the TSX two-tiered ecosystem, that it needs to continue to evolve and to match the new pace of the capital markets overall. And really, that's what Venture Forward will do and continue to do, right? You still have your 6 other commitments. We didn't go into them today. But Maybe just any last thoughts you have, Tim, on our commitment overall and helping companies continue to raise capital on our markets?
Yeah, I think, Benny, you have hit on some very key themes there, and this market is tremendously important to us. And as you said before, we're very proud of what we've done, but we can't rest on our laurels, and we want to continually strive to be better for our issuers, be better for all of our stakeholders. And the one key thing that helps us do that is listening. And so stakeholder engagement is super important for us. We want to hear from everybody and anybody, and we want to ensure that we are addressing the needs of the market.
Great. And I was going to ask you, Tim, who's your favorite company presenting at Planet MicroCap? But I know all 1,500 of our TSXV issuers are your favorite, so we won't name your favorite TSXV company. No. So with that, kind of want to thank everybody for tuning in. Hope you see some great presentations over these 2 days, and we are here to help and support this community and continue to help great emerging growth companies raise capital and become some of the most global leading technology, innovation, life science, clean tech, and mining companies in the world. So thanks everybody for tuning in.